it all just is about brain state. And it plays out in this way in this person and in that way in another person.
Our guest today is Helena Bester, a board-certified neurofeedback clinician, mentor, and author of 6 books, including Neurofeedback, the Non-Invasive Alternative, with a foreword by Sebern Fisher. In her private practice in Cape Town, she specialized in treating ADHD. Once she incorporated neurofeedback into her practice 24 years ago, her focus shifted to the dysregulated brain and trauma. She's been working closely with Sebern Fisher and Dr. Ruth Lanius for the past 5 years from Mozambique, and currently incorporates both DBR, deep brain reorienting, and neurofeedback in her work with the local Mozambican community and with expatriates from all over the world. Thank you for meeting with me today, Helena. This is going to be a really good conversation. I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit about how you started getting into neurofeedback and DBR, and then I understand you have some case history that you can talk a little bit about. I wonder if we could just start with how did you begin getting into neurofeedback? What inspired you to start investigating this as a modality?
Okay. Last that, it takes me back very far. So my practice in Cape Town initially, I focused on children with ADHD, and then it later on expanded to children and adults with ADHD. I've written quite a few books on ADHD and learning problems, and then it was actually my publisher that let me know that there's a person that's going to do a talk on neurofeedback and on QEEGs in Cape Town, and that was in 2000. So, and she thought that I might be interested, and off I went and listened to this presentation by the Brain Resource Center and 𝘁𝗔𝗄𝗏 Klaassen at the time. She's now Hollander. And I was much more than just interested. It was amazing. I had no idea what this was going to be about, and I was completely, wow, just overwhelmed with how amazing an entire world opened up to me. And after that meeting, I had a brief conversation with 𝘁𝗔𝗏, and let her know that I really was very interested, because at that point, I had realized that working with ADHD children, medication is just not a good thing for many reasons, and when they are not well regulated, nothing seems to work. And so I was very interested in the whole concept of arousal and measuring arousal and influencing arousal. At that time, I had already started using some meditations, techniques and music and so on to just get it to calm down. So the conversation with 𝘁𝗔𝗏 was very, very interesting. And she suggested that I enroll for training. She was the only trainer at the time, official trainer in South Africa. She was the person who had brought neurofeedback into South Africa. So we set up a training, and it was done at my practice, and there were a few people, and then everything changed. So I started introducing it eventually into my practice, and the results were amazing. So what I had before worked on for 2 years to get a little bit of a shift going, I started seeing immediate significant changes. But back then we were pretty much isolated in the southern part of Africa. So you will probably remember the process. There were these phone forum CDs that we could get, these recordings. And they were so, so precious. And I listened, I accessed all of them and listened over and over and over. And we did not have the possibility of having mentoring in person. So I would have some mentoring sessions with 𝙏𝗵𝙚𝙬𝙚, and for the rest, I read everything I could access and I listened to these. I still have the collection of those CDs. It's quite amazing. And those initial insights prove eventually to be the most profound insights, because we are moving back now to attuned neurofeedback, which is, in a way, back to the basics. And that is where the magic actually lies. So because it's not as though there were other neurofeedback practitioners around the block or in the next town, all kinds of problems would show up with, can't you please help with this? And I would say, I'm not experienced in this, but let us try. So I started working with very complicated, intense cases. Every now and then I would give my Cohen a call and he would guide me. And it was terrifying in a way, because there was nobody that I could check in with on a regular basis. So I started seeing amazing results with addiction, with autism. I worked a lot with drug addiction, and when I started with that, I really had no experience in the field. So that started becoming incorporated more and more, and my entire practice changed. So by the time I left Cape Town, which is 4 years ago, and I still go there regularly for follow-ups with some of my clients there, I had far more than half, well, probably about 70% of the practice was adults. And I had then started working a lot with generalized anxiety disorder and depression and so on. And only after started realizing the limitations of these diagnoses and how it all just is about brain state. And it plays out in this way in this person and in that way in another person. So my practice was very busy, very cool. And my other passion is the bush and elephants. So I decided to semi-retire, come to Mozambique, which is close to many wonderful off-the-grid places. And then COVID happened. And so I could not travel. And word got around that I was here, and I started working with individuals and to where I am now, where it is a very busy and very full practice. But in the time of COVID, I did an incredibly deep dive, because then we had time, right, all of us, to do all the conferences and everything that we wouldn't be able to afford to attend, first of all, from Africa. Suddenly, all of that was now available. It was wonderful. And then I started a really deep dive into understanding developmental trauma and also PTSD and associated research. I had worked with that before, but never in such depth. I did the certification course that Ruth Lanius presented, which was wonderful with all of those clinicians. So I had access to all of that and the wonderful privilege of having Sebern Fisher mentor me. So I wrote the Neurofeedback, the Non-Invasive Alternative book. And then for the second edition, it was requested that a chapter be added on trauma. And so I asked Sebern, would she be so kind to please add a chapter to this book for a second edition. And true to nature, she is to her own nature, she said, no, you write it. Right, so, wow, so yeah, was Sebern Fisher telling me to write a trauma chapter, right? So that was, and that process of her guiding me through that was, I feel incredibly privileged to have experienced that. So that chapter was added, and I started working almost exclusively with trauma. Well, in Africa, most things are trauma related anyway. So, and then the introduction to Frank's work automatically started because of Sebern, and I attended his teachings and his lectures in level 1 and level 2 and the mentoring and so on, and started thinking about this very, very deeply. And I'm possibly just beginning to grasp how profound these insights are. And I started including DBR in my practice as well. And the results are totally, I often just can almost not believe what is unfolding in front of my eyes, which is why I thought to also do a case study of a person that after 20 years of CBT, nothing changed. And then the combination of neurofeedback, tuned neurofeedback. There were also other approaches to neurofeedback. She travels all over the world, and I sourced other practitioners for her in different countries. But I am totally convinced that when one works with trauma, one has to work with the arousal model, and it has to be about calming the central nervous system. It has to be about understanding arousal. And then now we also know that it is about that so much goes on in the brain stem because of Frank Corrigan's work. And yeah, hence the conference. So change in trauma treatment is imminent. But change is also notoriously slow. So to just give these amazing brain-based therapies another boost from the other side of the world, basically, this dream of the conference started, and yeah, we are where we have the world leaders, living icons in trauma-based therapies and trauma research, and absolute proof of the efficacy of these therapies. The three leaders together for the first time, and that in South Africa, which that is quite amazing.
I wonder if we could talk a little bit about in your therapy practice. Like, do you use DBR and neurofeedback at the same time with the same clients, or how do you make decisions about how to approach either one?
I think, Lars, that is an important aspect that is going to be addressed at this conference as well, in the questions and answers sections, where we have Sebern and Ruth and Frank present. So what I do, because I am experienced in neurofeedback, I almost always start there, and then it kind of so way back when, in my original training that was with 𝘁𝗔𝗍, she said the motto of the talk therapies is talk about it and you'll feel better. And with neurotherapy, it is we'll make you feel better, then you'll want to talk about it. So the moment there is improved affect regulation, then it is inevitable that things start showing up, that we start talking about. And at this point, I think it's a very intuitive process for me, that I sense, but I am not yet experienced enough to be able to make a clear decision, yeah, DBR is going to work. But it is more of, and who knows what's involved in intuition. But there's experience, there's knowledge, there's theory, there's whatever else. But so I kind of sense that, yes, that this person probably will be open to DBR. And then we discuss that, in essence, what DBR is. And then I would, it then differs from person to person. So if we do a DBR session, sometimes there's such relief after a DBR session. The case study that I'm hoping to present, the person described the relief that she felt as hurricane lights in a storm. That the confusion, the intensity, the desperation, everything she was constantly in, there just these insights started breaking through. So in her case, we could initially do the calming, which is where I start with it. Calm the central nervous system, get the arousal lower, get the improved affect regulation, and then with the DBR. But that was just, it's a very high functioning individual, and it was clear to both of us that this is just putting a plaster. We're not getting to where all of this started, because she was diagnosed at the age of 13 with anorexia nervosa, and then played then constantly after that. And I met her when she was 44, a high functioning individual, and but plagued by these by the binging and the purging. And she's totally okay to share all her information. She's even willing to make known who she is because of the relief that she's experiencing, and that she also so wants it all to just go out there. So we knew, together we knew that this, and the protocols that I used, some that were suggested by Ed Hamlin for eating disorders, were very powerful and had profound effects, and there was significant relief from the beginning. But unless we continued with the neurofeedback on forever and ever, it would just recur again. So with the DBR, we then could access the origin of this. And as Frank often says in his teachings, and this was definitely the case with her, it was not about what happened. It was about what did not happen. So there was no extreme, no abandonment or abuse or obvious neglect. There was just her needs were not met. She was not seen. She was not focused on. And she had we got to the core, what Frank Corrigan refers to as the core aloneness pain. So we got to that, and we got to the extreme anger that there was about the extreme control that there always was, that she never had the freedom to express and to just be and allow her needs to surface and to be fulfilled. So it was about the unmet needs, and we could access those through DBR. So so she no longer, and I don't know of any other therapies that can do that. She no longer meets the criteria for eating disorder. There is still some issues that we are addressing, but yeah, so with some people it is clear when you need to add DBR, and with others, if I am not certain, I feel that this could maybe work well, then I would discuss it and explain very briefly what it is, and then venture that. So I typically, I would alternate. So if there's extreme relief after DBR, then maybe we will do another DBR if there was another activating stimulus in the activating event in the past week. But when a person is deeply disturbed and so much surfaced that there's a lot of discomfort, then I would do a neurofeedback training session that basically is just a calming session, and use one of the, mostly one of Sebern's protocols. And I've also been experimenting a bit with the neurofeedback protocols that can hopefully reach the brainstem.
Right. So when you're talking about Sebern's suggestions for protocols, you're really talking about brainstem, like neurofeedback that addresses the brainstem directly. Is that right? Is it would those kinds of protocols, like Indian Ridge and so on?
Yes, I don't do Indian Ridge with everybody because I find that some are quite reactive with Indian Ridge. I've done a lot of training on myself also with Indian Ridge, and it can be very profound. I do the protocol that she designed way back when, the T4 minus P4, that possibly goes to the amygdala. And then the FBO2 protocol also does absolute magic. So, or else I would just do general calming on the right hemisphere. And then with a few, I venture lower down toward the Indian Ridge, and even just below the Indian Ridge. And yeah.
Can you do you have a sense of the content of what Frank and Ruth and 𝘁𝗿𝗏 are going to be talking about? Can you share a little bit about what they're going to be discussing for the conference?
So I think the main theme of Sebern's, well, she opens the conference with the traumatized brain. So to bring the focus immediately to the brain. So that is where the problem is. That is where we're going to address the problem. And then in her two-part talk that has the title Walking the Tiger and Letting Her Sleep, she then added, let us qualify that, and it is rethinking trauma treatment. So it is in essence about shifting the mindset of all the clinicians there that are not already using brain-based therapies, shifting it to let's focus on the brain. Let's understand the basics of the brain, what happens in the brain, and let us understand that most of these diagnoses and these labels that people get that actually are just because of these horrific backgrounds. Let's just take all of it, let's erase all of that from how we think about trauma, and how we think about mental disorders, and let's understand what goes on in the brain, and let's deal with it at the level of the brain. She'll be introducing a bit of the initial research of Ruth about the default mode network and the how important the sense of self is, and then introducing a bit about Frank Corrigan's work. And Ruth, we are hoping, will bring the hot off the press. We already know of the clinical improvements that there are after only 8 DBR sessions. And there is the fMRI proof of significant changes in connectivity across the brain. And maybe there will be also the latest information to be published on, that's not yet published, that she's working on about the effects of DBR. And then the effects of neurofeedback. So she is basically bringing the proof of the efficacy of neurofeedback training and of DBR training. And a core aspect of the conference will also be about, let's figure out how we're going to add these two modalities. How can they support one another? How can we be creative in that? And Dr. Frank Corrigan, the author of Deep Brain Reorienting, will be presenting very user-friendly neuroscience that at first, when one is exposed to it, feels very daunting, but his teaching is always fantastic and so calming and wonderful. And he will explain to us the neuroscience involved and how this process of guiding the person to these deep brain structures, firstly to the superior colliculi, where the aware self is, deeper even to the brain stem, where we have a nucleus structus solitarius and a cerebrospinal nucleus, to those structures where proto-self is. And then he will do a demonstration of a DBR session, and there will be questions and answer sessions as well.
Thank you. For folks who are not, who haven't studied the neuroscience, is it really necessary for people to understand that neuroscience to, for example, to go to the conference or to learn DBR? Are those prerequisites for being able to go to the conference and to learn how to do DBR or to do neurofeedback?
It is so important in this conference, I think, that we are inviting not only clinicians, but all who want to be educated about what they have been suffering their entire lives and who are interested in adding one of these therapies. And some enjoy more detail and others less, but I think it is always interesting. And the way in which the neuroscience is presented, I don't think will be daunting to any person, but definitely interesting. And yeah,
Thank you.
some love detail and others not.
Yeah, right. I have a couple more questions if you got time. I just want to be sensitive to the time we have.
Yes, yes, we can go for a while long.
Okay, great. Thank you. One question is, has your work with the brain, with neurofeedback, with DBR, has it informed the way the work that you do with elephants? In what way has your approach to elephants changed because of the work that you do in the clinic?
The elephants changed the way I approach my work rather than the other way around. I think that was my first. So in one of Frank Corrigan's trainings, he ended the session with a proto-self guided meditation. And it was the most wonderful experience of peace, calm, interconnectedness, unity. It was just wonderful. And I recognized that place. And I learned that place from the elephants. So my fascination with elephants started a long time ago. And I accidentally, I did not intentionally try, or I did not know in neuroscientific terms what I was trying to override, or what I was trying to do to be able to communicate with them. So I would find myself, I followed the elephants to very remote places. Even the desert elephants in the northeastern parts of Namibia, in 𝘁𝗿𝗄𝗲𝗄𝗏. So I would often find myself close to elephants, and in observing them, just became, I think, systematically more attuned. And then the whole process became less cognitive, less rational and analytical. And it became easier and easier for me to just tune into where they are, how they are. And in that process, I found the most profound experiences of peace and calm. And it became just a regular, normal thing without me realizing that, oh, wow, I have now managed to transcend my thinking brain. Or it just became more, I enjoyed to be with them progressively more and more. And so that place that I go into when I feel totally attuned with the elephants. Oh, and then the arousal thing, when something changes there, where the elephants are, somebody comes past, or there's some danger, or there's some sound, or the whole dynamic changes. Right? Then the brain state of the elephants change, and that connection is no longer there. It's like it's just cut. So I get this brainstem to brainstem communication kind of thing that happens between individuals in the DBR sessions. So, and when in that meditation that Frank did, I recognized that, wow, this is the place where I'm at when I'm with the elephants. When we are all just interconnected in some magical way, where there's no need, there's no threat, there's just this It's harmony and peace.
That's good. Thank you. Sebern mentioned that there was a bit of a story. It's a little foggy in my mind. I wonder if you can maybe tell the story. Was there a moment when you had some health issues, and then there was it had to do with animals, maybe more than just elephants? It's just elephants. Antelope, a tiger, or a lion or something? Do you know the story that I'm talking about?
So I had very major back surgery recently, and an extended rehabilitation time, which was, it basically resulted in me having to lie flat on my back and stare at the ceiling for months on end. And I have a home in Marlock Park adjoining the Kruger National Park. And in that period of time, when I am there, they are animals. They are wild animals. They come to my office. I see them through the window. They are all around. And there's a paved area in front of the. So I chose to spend most of my rehabilitation time there. And there was a blue wildebeest that chose to come and actually sleep on the paved area right in front of the sliding doors that were, I kept it open always, no blinds or anything. So he would sleep there, stay there for the night. And when I wake up in the morning, he is right there. I have not experienced anything like that, seen anything like that. There's another, there's a kudu bull that comes there regularly, almost always when I am there. And he also chose to actually lie down very close to me, and he still does that, where I can access him. There was also a situation that she knows about where a blue wildebeest approached person, and it was a very tricky situation. It could have gone very wrong. And I stepped in between them, and we had kind of this staring interaction going on. And I just knew. So when a blue wildebeest gets agitated, there are warning signs. He does this, he starts kicking up dust a bit, and he starts looking really big and mean. And I somehow just connected with him, and he backed off. There was no so there are many instances like that I experienced that feels like a true and real connection. And all of that happens definitely subcortically. It's not something you can think about. Or I'm not sure if any of those are the incidents that you refer to.
Thank you for sharing. My last question is, at the risk of being somewhat bluntly commercial, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the software that you use for neurofeedback, and if, have you tried other softwares, or what do you like about it? Yeah.
Yes. So I started off with 𝘏𝗏𝗏. I was trained in 𝘏𝗏𝗏, and I had later on, because of the facility of one of the other systems where you can do QEEGs, purchased that, investigated that, went back to 𝘏𝗏𝗏, compared the softwares, caused a bit of a stir in one of the protocols that I love using that could not be copied in the other software. The way that it was set up definitely did not have the same results. So I feel most comfortable in, and this I can say unequivocally, in working with trauma-related issues. I am much more comfortable in working with 𝙭than any of the other systems available. I think it is, clinically, and also the mindset of the clinicians that use 𝙭somehow is different. It's less focused on technology, it's more clinical. The depth of the work done by the 𝙭. So I feel very comfortable with 𝙭software. I feel very comfortable with the clinicians that use 𝙭.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for watching. If you found something helpful, use a like and subscribe. It helps us with YouTube algorithm and lets us know we're on the right track.